This video is a film study look at John Jenkins, who the Ravens just signed over the weekend to be a potential replacement for Michael Pierce. Jenkins is a 35-year-old D tackle, turned 36, I believe, in July. He's moved around a lot, and he did miss a significant amount of time, I think between like 2018, 2019, somewhere in that range. 7 games played, 9 games played. I think he switched teams one season. He does have, however, 100 combined tackles in the last 2 years in Las Vegas. Very active player when you watch on film. I think it's pretty notable the production that he's got, number one, and number two, the amount of snaps that he played for the Raiders in 2023 and 2024. I do expect him to be rotated in more in Baltimore. Last year, Michael Pierce played 18 to 20 snaps a game. Brent Urban played 10 to 12, sometimes 15. It depends with Urban. So how much are they expecting out of Jenkins? I don't know. I think he's capable of more than 18 or 20 snaps a game, to be honest with you. Is he a better player than Pierce? I don't know that. I don't think that's necessarily a fair question or a question that I should try to answer. I think it's a fair question for fans to ask. I think he might be more balanced in certain ways and have a wider sphere of influence. Basically, I think he's a better player laterally than Pierce might be. Pierce, I think, would control a smaller area of the field, if you will, but he might control that smaller area of the field with more intensity than Jenkins does. Hopefully, I said that in a way that makes sense. I think this is a good signing. I like the player for what he's going to be and what he's going to be asked to do. He's very good against combo blocks. He knows when to disengage from an offensive lineman, when to accept the combo slash double initially, and then when to work off of it and basically play off of or through that contact, I should say, and redirect to the football. He's a very strong football player, one-on-one, particularly against centers. He looks very dominant at times. Moves laterally extremely well versus reach blocks or sweep path stuff on outside zone. I think it's probably a better question to ask, is he better than saying, is he better than Michael Pierce? Is he better than Broderick Washington? And there's some instances against the run where I would say, yes, he does look like he could be. So let's get the film started. And this is a dominant player against centers oftentimes. Against the Steelers, I think 2023, you see this consistently when he's got one-on-one opportunities, just driving the center back into the backfield. And in this case, you got an inside linebacker. I think it's Diablo. Played a whale of a game that night. I watched, I think, 6 games over a 2-hour period between 2023 and 2024. To me, the film looked, pretty much the same. This is a sneaky good signing, in my opinion. It's easy for me to say that, obviously, as a Ravens content creator and a Ravens fan. I think he wins one-on-one battles against centers consistently against the run. And that is the part that I think is extremely notable here. He's not going to take snaps away from Matabike and Travis Jones in passing situations. But 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, I think he'll be on the field often in a rotation with those guys and Broderick Washington, maybe Aeneas Peebles as well. Good 5-man group, if you ask me. Not even mentioning the fact that perhaps Brent Urban is going to come back for another 1-year stint with the Ravens. This is the same play from the end zone angle, and I just love how he's, like I said, he's really capable of winning in one-on-one situations, and he doesn't always have to win to one side. So reads blocks really well. When an offensive lineman is trying to work laterally against him, he wins those situations to the front side or to what we would call the back door. This is just, shrugging off the center, winning to the back door here of where he's lined up. So he's lined up to the right of the center in that right A gap, but he ends up obviously in the other A gap. That's not Diablo that's filling that. My apologies. That's safety Epps, but he played fantastic in some of the games that I watched from 2023. So it's an honest mistake. The game that really stuck out for me that I went back and watched was Detroit Lions 2023. If you remember, Josh McDaniels got fired in 2023 after this game. And Detroit only won like 26-14. It was a very unusual, weird game. They had 2 turnovers in that game. This was after watching this game, the first thing I thought of was this is a way better signing for our defensive line than the Joe Noteboom signing was for our offensive line. I understand there may be some disagreement there. Essentially, you can see Jenkins on the field for 40 plays because that's what happens on the film in 2023 and 2024. Number one, he can play. Second, he's durable, right? At least the last 3 years. the stats that are flowing through kind of illustrates it. He played 16 and then 17 and 17 games for the Dolphins and the Raiders 2022, 2023, and 2024. Missed a significant number of games over like a 4-year stretch, maybe a 5-year stretch. This game against the Lions, the one I'm going to show you, I think, 4 plays from, compare the displacement that occurs with, for Jenkins versus other D tackles for the Raiders. And look, Jahmyr Gibbs had a hell of a game. I could show you 3 or 4 huge runs from Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. I don't necessarily need to do that because we're trying to present to you what John Jenkins can do. I think he plays well in tight space against combo blocks. I think he plays well laterally on one-on-one situations. So here's a combo. Check out the timing of the movement with these 2 combos on Jenkins and these 2 combos on, I think it's Nichols. I'll do what we used to do in coaches' rooms and just let it flow back multiple times so you can see it. Basically, synchronization of the combo blocks. Look at the displacement that happens horizontally for both of them. But the difference is Jenkins isn't getting moved vertically. And if I had the all-22 queued up, you could see it really clearly. But look at Nichols' foot back here on, I believe, the 18-yard line, or maybe 23-yard line, excuse me. And whereas Jenkins' foot is able to stay pretty much in line with the line of scrimmage or where his foot was off the snap. And you can see where Jahmyr Gibbs goes with the football is right where Nichols was totally obliterated off the line of scrimmage. Forgive me for running it back so many times, but that's how we would look at steps, who handles combo blocks well, both from a anchor standpoint, but also from getting moved vertically. The inside linebacker's kind of getting tangled up in Nichols, and I'm not trying to be derogatory towards him, but consistently when I watch the film, Jenkins against combo blocks, he holds his ground horizontally, laterally, and also vertically. Basically, he doesn't get moved vertically like you just saw Nichols do there. And like I said, he moves well side to side while he's engaging a blocker, and he can find the football. Basically, you're talking about matching the blocks and the path of the lineman you're lined up on and reading, and then ending up at the point of attack in run support. And there's a ton of 2-yard gains, 3-yard gains on the tackles that he's involved in. He really kind of reminds me of DJ Reader. Now, I don't think he's as dominant from an athletic standpoint, but what I mean is from a defensive tackle standpoint, he's not a penetrator against a run or the pass. He plays the block. He reads the block well. He's located here. You can see at this point the run concept is going to our right. The Lions' offense is left. Just like DJ Reader, doesn't necessarily play on the other side of the line of scrimmage a ton, but he takes and accepts combo blocks extremely well and is able to dislodge them, or I should say, he's able to disengage from the blocker who stays in contact with him, number one. And number two, he's able to move laterally and get involved in the play, just like you saw on that previous snap that I showed. He's very strong. I think at times he overwhelms centers. In this case, there's going to be a combo block down on him by Penei Sewell, the right tackle for the Lions. We've got the reverse view from the previous 2 that we had, so we're behind the offense. And check out what he does to the guard. Now, don't get me wrong, Sewell also makes contact right there on the combo, right? And John Jenkins is not really needed to make the tackle here. You got Max Crosby, you got a corner, I think it's Marcus Peters, in fact, by the way, involved in it. But Jenkins just totally discarding the guard. This is a very strong football player, 6'3", 335 range, somewhere in that area. He's played 40, 45 snaps a game, somewhere in that range for the Raiders the last 2 years. We don't need him to do that, but he can. And I think that's why I like this signing so much. If there was an injury to one of our other 3D tackles, John Jenkins could play more than we're going to ask him to do by his base assignment, by his base role, which I suspect is going to be 22, 25, maybe 28 snaps a game in run situations. But if we're stopping the run and forcing teams to throw the football a lot, then he'll probably be on the field less, right? Just by definition. We're going to get more teams in known or obvious passing situations, and then we won't need Jenkins on the field. We'll have Matabike and Travis Jones with some combination of our outside linebackers. He's very aware during the play, meaning he can adjust to the running back's path during the play and then meet the running back at the line of scrimmage. Like I said, I was really impressed with this film from 2023 and 2024. One more play, I think, from the Lions game. So Max Crosby being extremely disruptive here, essentially, working some magic. You've got a pulling offensive lineman who's going to try to kick him out, and Crosby just basically dips under it and around it. Jenkins, however, is a guy who moves well laterally and can find the football after or while he's being engaged. So he's really good at being able to see to one side or the other and then adjust and move that offensive lineman where he needs him to go and then finish to the play side. I felt like he was a consistent guy at the point of attack against the run. Even in that Lions game where I think Detroit ran for like 194 yards or something like that. He doesn't give up vertical space, which I mentioned earlier on combo blocks. I want you to watch his feet during this snap. My apologies. Actually, I had one more play against the Lions. So look where he's lined up initially. His feet just past, I believe it's the 45, but I could be wrong there. And then watch as he moves laterally to deal with this. If his right foot does end up slightly back behind his alignment, but he's not getting moved in this direction vertically at all, and he's able to see the football and redirect. Look at him peek to one side, and then he realizes, okay, the running back's back across the other side. Of course, Max Crosby is causing chaos in the backfield once again. He can two-gap, essentially, is what you're talking about. He can play his gap, but then also peek to the backside if he ends up there briefly, and that's what really reminds me of DJ Reader. He can win kind of when he wants to. In that last 0.4 or 0.5 seconds before the running back gets to the line of scrimmage, he can get his body, get his head and his upper body to the side that the running back chooses, and I think that's a rare skill. This is a really good signing, in my opinion. Look, definitely not a pass rush guy. I don't think the Ravens need him to be, right? We've now with Matabike and Travis Jones in there, drafted Aeneas Peoples, who's got some, really good pass rush moves that you can see on film, and then some stats that support that pass rush win rate and also how quickly he apparently wins. I don't really track those things, but I've seen those stats posted up in other places, along with in my Discord. But we also bring back Van Noy, who I've got hopefully a video coming out in the next couple of weeks. He's got 26 and a half sacks in his last 30 regular season games played, he being Van Noy. I think that's truly remarkable, and I want to cover that in detail in video form, focusing on Van Noy. Owe had 10 sacks last year, or maybe it was 10 and a half. Mike Green is a rookie with very refined pass rush skills and obvious athleticism to go along with those moves. Jenkins is a balanced football player. He'll be able to give us good reps, good snaps, however often we need him to be on the field. If everybody's healthy, we don't need him to be a starter. To reiterate, the second time I've made this point, the thing I really do enjoy about this signing, for it being a one-year deal, right? He's a 35, 36-year-old guy once the season starts, is that if, as a result of injury, we needed him to play 40, 45 snaps in a game, he could do that. I don't think I would want Aeneas Peoples out there for 45 snaps a game. Broderick Washington has done that. I would say that he's, of the same quality. In my opinion, I think that the ceiling for Jenkins as a run defender is better than Broderick Washington. But, I have no idea what the advanced metrics and stats say about that. I'm just going off of the film that I've watched. He knows when to stop in pass rush situations and get his hands up, and he's got great awareness. Not only does he have 100 tackles in the last 2 years in Las Vegas, he's also got 6 passes defense. Now, I don't know who gets credit for this one, because there's like 3 guys who actually touch the football, and you get the end zone angle here in a moment. So you got these 2 D tackles here. I think it's Nichols and Jenkins, and then this defensive back, since the ball's kind of thrown on the wrong side. Well, the ball ends up on the wrong side because it's tipped. They all 3 really touch the football, and that's my point about Jenkins. Not that we want him on the field on pass rush situations, but if a team does go to a run on 1st and 10, that's not play action, or 2nd and 4, that's not play action. He's got the awareness to be able to get his hands up. Like, it's very rare for me to see 2 guys get their hands on the football in one play, let alone what I think is 3 here. I don't even remember exactly who they gave the pass defense to. You can see that I think both of these guys touch the football here, and then the defensive back does as well. So just showing this play to illustrate the awareness that Jenkins has. Seems to be a guy who's willing to stop and wait for the quarterback, try to get in that passing lane and try to maybe redirect if the quarterback scrambles. And I think that skill is underrated. There's so many times where guys kind of go to one side, and depending on the rush of the other D tackle, the other edge defenders that are on the field, you end up creating an easy lane for the quarterback to squirt through if it's a 4-man rush, which we know we want to use more often. The the pass rush impact is rare. I will say this: he does have a signature play that's somewhat similar to Michael Pierce. It's not the interception, but John Jenkins has a 44-yard touchdown return of a fumble in the Raiders' blowout win of the Chargers late in 2023, after obviously Justin Herbert had been injured. This is one of the things I'm talking about. He's not getting there at all, but he understands. Okay, I'm going to just try to stay in the lane of where the quarterback is looking. And for a moment, you can see that the quarterback is looking in this direction. There's Jenkins, who, quote, sees it, if you ask me, recognizes, let me get my hands up, get in the way. Ends up being a forced fumble by 51, and Jenkins rumbles his way for a long touchdown. I think they end up scoring like 65 or 63 points in that game. That was a big play. Like I said, it's a signature play, random, anomalous, whatever you want to call it. He's a very aware football player. I think, like I said earlier, does a really good job dealing with combo blocks. And it has to be said, we played the Raiders in week 2 this season. So we had film of him, experience dealing with him. For Jenkins to be 35 years old, I'm sure the salary point is low, 1-year deal, if I saw it correctly. I think the objective is clear, right? Get him in on certain rundowns and generally be off the field in known passing situations. I thought it was a good signing before I looked at the film. The first game I watched was our Week 2 game, 2024. And then the rest of the film that I watched just confirmed it for me. Like I said earlier, Pierce only played about 18, 20 snaps a game, if I did my math right. Jenkins, at age 35, played 35, 40, sometimes 45, 50, 47, 48, 50 snaps in a game. Looks like he could still do this, right? We don't need him to. I think he's a great addition to our roster. If the only thing that would make it totally set from a defensive line standpoint for me, in my mind, is if Brent Urban was to agree to another 1-year deal, because he, being a veteran, provides such roster maneuverability. Now, I don't know if Jenkins does as well, meaning I don't know if we can have the same movement with a player like we did with Brent Urban with Jenkins. We don't necessarily need to, if you ask me, because quite obviously, I think he's still useful, and we wouldn't want to put him out there in a situation where maybe he could go somewhere else 2 or 3 times during the season. An example of what I'm talking about from a combo block situation. So Raiders are in this kind of one inside linebacker look. Diablo, the other inside linebacker, is lined up, head up on the tight end. Certainly looks like he's going to play man. As Spillane fills here, right? Watch the combo work out with these two offensive linemen, the center and the left guard. So the center sees it, and you will get the end zone angle. Center sees Spillane, and you can see these guys right hand on Jenkins' left hip, maybe his midsection, and he works immediately up to Spillane. That's followed by Jenkins discarding or disengaging from the guard and getting involved in the tackle. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see how important it was that Jenkins disengage. I think it's a 3-yard gain there. Subtle skill, maybe some would say, or something that's unimportant. I don't think so. I think he has awareness of, okay, I'm going to get combo blocked here. I just got to hold my ground for a period of time, and then I can work back to that gap that I lined up in. And so I think this is a starting caliber defensive tackle for probably 10 or 12 or maybe 15 teams in the NFL right now. I get it. He's 35, he's 36, and some may not have the same opinion, but when you watch him accept combo blocks, watch him win one-on-ones against the run, and be able to move laterally, I think that combination is a starting caliber player for a number of teams in the NFL. Certainly not for us, right? Not for the better defenses in the NFL. But this is a guy who can play and still play at a high level. The fact that he missed so many games at a certain point in his career, maybe that's what's helped him, have so much life left here at 35, 36. Maybe the Ravens are in too late on him, but I don't think so, at least based on the film that I have seen. Here you got the timing of Spillane working here. The center has already released the combo to the guard. Jenkins ends up on the wrong side, but watch how he uses the left arm to gain leverage on that guard, disengage, and get involved in the tackle. Like I said, perhaps it's not as impressive to you. I get it. But for the caliber of player he's doing these things against, I think that we've got a good signing here for a 1-year deal. Last play that I'll show is just kind of illustrative of his bull rush. He's Got these like short, explosive steps, but really good handwork. I wouldn't expect him to give much pass rush help, but I don't think the Ravens necessarily needed it, right? The reality is this: finished second in sacks in 2024 with 54 sacks. In 2023 had 58, or maybe it was 60. There's a couple different sites that had different stats, but in any case, 100 sacks in the last 2 years. 2022 we have 48. All three of those numbers, top 5 finishes in the NFL for team sacks. We didn't need pass rush help. We got Mike Green in the draft to just boost those numbers and boost up that capability, and I think he will. Jenkins is brought in as a run defender. Maybe if we want to complain, we could. Is it possible someone could say we could have gotten an equivalent player against the run in the 4th round? I'm not so sure. I really don't think so. I really don't think any of the guys that were there when we drafted the inside linebacker from Cal, which I wasn't a huge fan of that particular pick at that location, even though I liked the player. I don't know that we could have got someone as good as Jenkins for 2025 at that spot. Really like Tonka Hemingway. He's the guy that I think was still there on the board. This is what you're getting from a pass rush standpoint generally. Bull rush situations, just walking the center back into the quarterback's face, try to disrupt his ability to see things and then also follow through, making throws more difficult, 5% more difficult, 7% more difficult. I don't know. I like the signing. I recognize that some others may not as much. Um, this to me just illustrates how much talent there is on this roster, and a lot of it is established, proven, like Jenkins. He's got 300 career tackles. He's made 100 tackles in the last 2 years. Seems like he's got a lot to give, to offer still. But based on our roster configuration and the productivity level of Matabike, Travis Jones, Broderick Washington at times, we don't need him to be a starter. We got a veteran here on a 1-year deal. I think he fits our situation, especially with Travis Jones being in his 4th year, and hopefully we're able to bring him back. Travis Jones only has, I believe, 3.5 sacks in his career, even though we know he's got some capability to impact the game in pass rush situations. I think we increased our legitimate D tackle depth here to at least 4, meaning guys with experience and some production, maybe 5. Aeneas Peebles is ready to go or in certain pass rush moments, or Brent Urban returns. I think it's a really great defensive line group in terms of depth, ability to play from a situational standpoint, extending that out to our outside linebacker / edge defender position. Jenkins focuses or boosts up the run defense a little bit. I think we've cleared some cap space, the Derrick Henry signing. So this is great for me, in my opinion. The roster is near complete. The only issue now or sticking point is, with Ardarius Washington's injury. That leaves another perhaps need heading into, I think OTAs is in like a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks. You're welcome to let me know what you think of the signing, whether it satisfies whatever you thought our needs were for defensive tackle in the draft. Did we miss out on a defensive tackle in round 4? I think there were 5, 6, maybe 7, but memory says 5 or 6 defensive tackles selected in the next 14 picks after we took the inside linebacker from Cal. So other teams thought that defensive tackles were worthy. We didn't take one. We traded back into the 5th, and then I think took Vinson, the tackle from Alabama Tech. In any case, let me know what you think of the plays that I chose to use to illustrate how usable and how worthwhile I think this signing is for a 1-year deal, and whether or not you agree with me that he seems to be a guy who not only can provide what we need, 20, 22, 25 snaps a game against the run, somewhere in that range, but also were it to be an injury situation in a given week, John Jenkins looks like a player who's ready to play 40, 45 snaps a game, particularly against the run, but a guy who's seen it all and been there and done that and does 3 things extremely well that I think makes him more comparable from a player standpoint to Michael Pierce than to a Broderick Washington. I like the signing, even though he's not a player that I knew a whole lot about, other than watching him play against the Ravens in Week 2 this year and the Lions last season, 2 seasons ago, 2023, in a Week 8 loss in Detroit. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoy the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, please consider sharing a link to this out on social media if you'd like to see this content get more reach. And finally, if you've ever considered supporting me on Patreon, it is $5 a month for Ravens fans. You get access to Ravens Discord, which is a private community that allows us to talk about the games, the players, the schemes, decisions like the draft or the John Jenkins signing, in a secure environment, meaning it's isolated away from any trolls that would detract from the discussion. I appreciate you guys' time.